there's one that we use, there's no such thing as a wrong budget. It's just a wrong execution,
Yeah.
So everybody goes, the budget was wrong. Children's Hospital's example, the budget was wrong.
Yeah.
They messed that up, and you kind of go, really, maybe the scope has changed so dramatically since the original budget was set that maybe it's not the same project anymore. Maybe it's something completely different. And so, there's no such thing as a wrong budget.
Hello, everybody. Gavin Coyle, I'm the Gaffer, is back again with another great guest. His name is Ross Griffin, and he is founder of KOSMOS and the Fifth Dimension, disrupting the construction industry. And we love to have disruptors on the podcast. And I've had a very good chat with this guy, and you're going to love him in terms of his energy and in terms of his direction within the construction industry, because I love things lean. If anyone listens to the show, I'm all about efficiency, and I'm all about, how can we improve things to make things better? How can we remove barriers or remove pieces of information that are not essential or not critical to the project, and get to the core things that actually make a difference in terms of get the job done, get it built properly, and be on budget and be on time. And Ross Griffin has a wealth of knowledge, and I think you're going to love this conversation. Ross, welcome to
Thanks, Gavin.
How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, no bother of kind of heading into the Christmas season and all of that. So
into the silly season,
exactly, trying to get things closed up by the end of next week, so we can all take a nice earned break over Christmas and New Year.
100%. And I love the fact that you're wearing a KOSMOS top. Here's me turning up with my Adidas. What's the story, Gavin? Top.
Yeah. Always on brand. Always on brand. Albeit it's a hoodie, it's always on brand just in case.
Yeah, well, that just goes to show you. So, there's an entrepreneur in you. So let's get into that part first, because I'm intrigued by your entrepreneurial spirit just as much as your energy. So tell us, where did that come from?
I guess I've always had something inside me wanting to do something different. I hate the idea of falling in line and, doing what you're told, and making sure that it's always within these parameters. That really bugs me. It bugged me in school when I was there, having to sit in the room and follow this process and follow this structure. And so coming out into the industry after university, and it bugged me that we were doing kind of the same thing, just falling in line and following suit, and no one was looking at kind of efficiency and can we do it quicker? Like, I don't know if it's OCD or maybe I'm on the spectrum or something like that, but every time I look at something, I'm looking at the kind of the beginning and the end, and how do we get there the most efficiently and the quickest, obviously not constraining quality or anything like that. And it was an interesting a couple of years ago. Some of my colleagues and founding partners at KOSMOS, so we had similar mindsets in that sense of that efficiency. And so I guess we are where we are today because of that mindset, looking at what we do, how we do it, and can we bloody do it better, quicker, faster, higher quality, lower costs. Maybe it's just a challenge you put on yourself,
Well,
doing things different.
It's an interesting thing, because you're a QS by trade, if you don't mind me saying so. Yeah. So you're the guy who used to batter the project managers, and the site managers used to lose jobs because of you guys and stuff like that.
This is it. Yeah. And now it's all about collaboration, Gavin. It's all about collaboration now.
It's all about collaboration and culture, and we're all in together, and we're all going to work together.
Exactly.
I'll never forget a famous QS saying, when we were on a job that was going horribly wrong, and, of course, everybody started looking at each other and going like, how did we get the figures so wrong? And I'll never forget the QS's statement was, it said, it was making money when it left my table.
That's very good, right?
Yeah. You can't come back from that. Like, how no. Yeah, it was just that one phrase that stuck in my head. So you have just completely absolved yourself from anything got to do with that. You said, you basically pointed the arrow at the project team and said, the execution was wrong. But
there's one that we use, there's no such thing as a wrong budget. It's just a wrong execution,
Yeah.
So everybody goes, the budget was wrong. Children's Hospital's example, the budget was wrong.
Yeah.
They messed that up. And you kind of go, really, maybe the scope has changed so dramatically since the original budget was set that maybe it's not the same project anymore. Maybe it's something completely different. And so, there's no such thing as a wrong budget. So
why do people change what was a blueprint that was signed off on with a budget, and how do we not capture these things? Like, is it? Am I being too simplistic about this? Like,
no, absolutely. You have to be simplistic about our industry, because all the conversation and noise around us is about complexity. It's so complex. It's so difficult. Look at this project is completely different to this project, and every project is unique, and how we approach them is unique, and all of that. That's all rubbish. It's actually very simple. It's the same as building the extension that you have in your house to a hospital. You need to start with, what do you need? What do you want as a client or that asset owner? And then you develop that with your partners, as we discussed, the architects and the engineers and the contractors and the QSs, in order to understand, is it fit for purpose for me? Mm-hmm. The challenge with this is that when you get into the major projects, is you have multiple stakeholder groups that have no idea what they want. Yeah. They have no idea what the impact of their decision making is having on the project. And potentially then you have a weak kind of project manager or weak architect on their side that doesn't understand that by doing this has this cost and time impact. And we're not reporting that back in a way that the client, who's a non-construction professional, understands. So go back to, it is simplistic. That's what we need to get back to in our industry. Simplistic way of communicating both upstream and downstream, how we're managing that change impact from that original scope, making sure that everybody on the team understands that this is the budget that has been set for, your construction, your facade, your MEP, your preliminaries, your indirect costs, your contingency. That transparency will allow us then to get simple about these discussions. Mm-hmm. I think it's a nice way to put it.
I get a sense when I go onto projects that people are still operating in silos, and the M&E guy, is only concerned about the M&E package, and the chippy's only concerned about his package or her package. I don't get a sense of a commonality of numbers amongst all of the trades together to say, that's the number, guys. Remember, that's the number. We don't go past that number. And next thing all of a sudden, there's a massive overrun because just a random thing like furniture mightn't be available. And next thing, the fit out is going out of control altogether because there's delays on product getting into the country, or somebody has messed up with regards to a detail, and therefore it needs to be redesigned and stuff like that. So maybe. And
who's managing that risk then? Because all of that stuff that you just outlined needs to be on some risk register, visible to the stakeholder groups that risk impact. So if it is the furniture, and it is the carpenter, and it is the client and the architect, they should understand that there's a risk here that we're ordering this furniture from Europe, the US, or Asia, and it could effectively have an impact on our project if it doesn't arrive. So does everybody understand that risk? Has everybody visibility on that risk?
I don't know that they do. I still get a sense that we're still operating on, well, I'm okay, but you're in trouble.
Yeah, and that's not my problem, by the way.
That's not my problem.
I've just installed all my pipes here, but I know you guys will have to come back later and change whatever else comes in after that, and so on. Whether it's the ceilings, and often you find in projects is that the partition and ceiling guys are coming on, putting up their ceilings, and the services aren't finished and commissioned yet. They're going, we've been told to do this. This is on our track. We need to stay on time.
Yeah. And or by the way, your cable was in the way, so I snipped it. So you're just going to have to track that back yourself. Sorry about that, pal. We're very selfish. I think we have a very one-dimensional view but because people are trying to protect them, they're trying to protect their construction company. You can't blame them for that. But who's the leader? Is the client the leader?
Yeah, culturally in our industry, our culture is broken in reality.
Okay.
If you look at that on a team environment, effectively, a construction project is a team environment for that moment in time, whether it's a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year construction project. And effectively, to have a good result at the end, you need to have everybody working together in some type of harmony. Mm-hmm. So whose responsibility is that? That's both upstream responsibility, the client. It's both downstream responsibility, the people that are coming in to actually physically do the work. And I think those guys and girls they're the ones that put in the serious effort in reality, because it's not easy to construct, it's difficult on the body and so on. So they need to be commended for sure for the work they're doing. But we all need to be, as whether it's blue collar, white collar, working together on this and making sure that everybody understands the impact, the profile of the project. What are our KPIs? What are we really targeting? And that's different from everybody. But someone should understand what's important to the client here. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, the client is the one that's paying. They are the one that's going to take the project on.
So then that brings on the other problem where the principal contractor is guarding the relationship with the clients because I have had the client's not happy. The client, well, I tell you what, why don't you tell the client to come down here and talk to us all, and we'll all give them
exactly.
Now, in fairness to the clients, they're a lot more hands-on these days than they ever were, I believe, and they're a lot more switched on. Gone beyond the days where the architect used to be the one that was like, here's the architect, but book yourself up because the architect doesn't have as much sway as what they used to, and so the client is actually coming in and saying, show me. And I want to listen to some of your workers and I want to get some feedback.
Exactly. Culturally, it's changing. I think we're a little bit behind, I would say, in Ireland in comparison to other countries in Europe because of, I think, the financial crash, Celtic Tiger period. Our industry has regressed an awful lot in the last decade. We didn't have the financial possibility for R&D. We don't invest enough in R&D in Ireland, I don't think, in comparison to other places, other countries in Europe, where the financial crash wasn't as bad and their industry was able to recover much quicker. The profit margins are better. So if you consider Denmark, for example, where I lived for a long time and our business is Danish, albeit I now live in Ireland. Denmark they do an awful lot of off-site manufacturing. So precast panels, precast construction, standardization when it comes to housing design, whether it's multi-unit or not. Like you can go and purchase a house online and go, actually, house number 7, I like being, and the contractor will come, that's what they'll build for you because it's pre-designed, pre-manufactured, everything. Yeah. Whereas here in Ireland, we haven't developed on that layer in the industry because of the impact of the Celtic Tiger and financial crash of 2008 and 2009, meaning that now we have to play catch up. And ideally speaking, we still in Ireland are building our multi-residential units like 500,000 apartments in the same way. We build that extension I was talking about. Yeah. We have a block layer, we have an electrician, we have a plumber, we have a carpenter, we have
change.
And everybody's on site trying to do stuff, If you consider the bathroom of that apartment, every single trade goes through the bathroom, every single one of them. And it's compact and they're getting smaller. And yet we're still doing it in the exact same way that we did it 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago. And we haven't kicked on. And that's a little bit of a pity. But I think it is changing. That mindset is changing.
I do think the M&E guys, in fairness, the tier 1 M&E guys do have off-site manufacturing facilities. I'm well aware of that. And they do try and, do that process-driven model rather than dynamic model of, let's do it on site. Probably a bit difficult for carpenters and stuff like that, where, it's
kind change. I think what they'll do is their profession will change. Carpenters, like first fix carpenters, for example, on roofing, you can now buy trusses in. That's all factory manufactured now. Yeah. So that first fix component in carpentry will also change. Like stud partitions, we're now seeing gypsum blocks come in where they're replacing the stud partition, and they're rapid build, rapid fast, fireproofed, everything in one.
Insulation.
and insulated. So it is really that dynamicism is changing between that traditional on-site, everything comes in the material and we put it all together on a construction project, to the carpenter moving into potentially a factory orientated kind of environment where it's under a roof, it's warm, the conditions are better, etc. Their commute to work is the same every day. They're not traveling around the country. And I think that's going to, for the trades out there, that's going to be the biggest difference in the next 10 years, 15 years, I think, which is
we've been slow. The Irish are a bit slow now to pick up on some innovations, like in fairness to other countries like the UK. From my experience, they're a little bit more open-minded to embrace maybe too much. Maybe they've gone too much a little bit, but there is a bit of this is the way we've always done it.
And the risk adversity, though, again, Celtic Tiger, financial crash, we've really stepped back into our shells in Ireland, and we really do not want to take any risk. And that comes from the top down. Government right down through the entire industry is the same. We're protecting everything just in case we have this another famine, another financial crash, another huge historical moment in our history, and everybody is just walking on thin ice and scared to put their head above the parapet and go, do you know what? Fuck it, I'm going out here. I'm gonna go do this on my own and see if we can do something here.
Yeah, like I did shiver there recently when I came across this random guy on YouTube. It was in another part of the world talking about how Ireland had completely, messed up with a children's hospital build that's gone into the billions, and that it's a laughing stock around the world. And it was kind of like, it's not just in Ireland. This, and I'm not judging anybody on that contract, principal contractor or others.
No.
But if you want a case study in the future in schools of how to not pull together a very significant institutional project and how it can go wrong, that's a pretty good case study.
It needs to be investigated, of course, and understood. But what's more worrying out of the Children's Hospital is the fact that we were going to hang on to that and go, oh my God, we can never do something like this before. We have to put all these processes in place. We have to put all these checks in place. We have to put all this administration in place now to make sure that this never happens again. And that's not what we want to do. What we want to do now is draw a line in the sand. Let someone analyze the reasons for it. And let's get on with our other huge national projects we have to do. Let's not do them in the same way. Look at the Dublin Metro. We're still at it,
Well, we've had Paul Sheridan from the Construction Industry Federation on this podcast talking about how there is a massive need for more contractors to step up into government contracts, but because the government contracts are gone so risk adverse, contractors are going, don't like all the paperwork, and I definitely don't like all the conditions, and I don't think I'm going to be going there. So I'd rather deal with what I can put my hands to and actually keep closer to the check rather than deal with all this. And he's kind of like, there's got to be a shift. And of course, this Children's Hospital side of things has caused sort of, so-called advisors to say, maybe, we can't trust these construction guys because they're telling us one thing, and then as soon as we get the job, it's completely a different set of principles and values, and we can't trust them.
The contract at the end of the day, the GCCC contract, when it came out originally in the back of the noughties, was, in my opinion, was ridiculous, because it went away in the opposite direction to where the industry was going in terms of partnership and collaboration, and pushed all risk and responsibility on the contractor. You cannot push that level of risk on a contractor for the entire unknowns of your ground conditions, for example. In Denmark, that doesn't happen at all. The client owns all the risk in the ground. The client owns it. You can't transfer it. Okay. Legally you can't transfer it. The client owns it. And so geotechnical reports and all of that stuff becomes important. But also, for everybody, you cannot just transfer that risk. It needs to be shared. And at the end of the day, it's the client. So the GCCC, in that instance, has now, as the industry went down, GCCC was coming in. Everybody was underpricing and zero tendering and all of that stuff just to get projects to keep afloat.
Yeah.
The reality of it now is that the private sector is doing pretty well. Data center industry, pharmaceuticals, residential.
Yeah.
No one actually needs to go and do any public works anymore, because the private sector is doing so well. So the private sector or the public sector now need to go. We need to look at what the global industry is doing in terms of contracting, and what they're doing is partnerships, alliances, more collaboration, and the NEC contracts have these forms. It's not what the GCCC is today, and we need to get away from that, in my opinion, to build that collaboration to change the industry. Mm-hmm. And public sector, largest investor in the country, shouldn't they lead the way in doing something different in our industry? Shouldn't they lead that? And so it filters down through the supply chains, and we get to a position actually where it's fun to work in the industry. It's fun, and people are attracted in. Mm-hmm.
Well, you're talking about the commercial stuff as well. There's also the residential stuff that's not getting built with like social housing, and there's like we've got the one of the guys from Northern Ireland Federation coming on shortly, and like he's saying basically they should be building 30,000 houses a year for social housing. That was 5 years ago. Yeah. And the trend has been 5,000 year on year. So like you're just getting further and further away from the problem. What about what's your views on public-private?
Yeah, on the residential, I think we had this in the podcast about 5 years ago when the 30,000 came out. We went, you can't even build it now. So now you're going to have to layer up every year what you're missing, and next thing it's 100,000 a year.
Yeah,
we don't have enough people in the industry to do that. It doesn't matter whether you want to do it or not. We just don't have enough people. And if we want to attract people into the industry, they need to come from abroad.
Yeah.
We've nowhere to house them. So there's this huge double-edged sword challenge we have here in the housing sector. And I was just chatting to someone today about it. I think someone mentioned to me, was there 50,000, 40,000 units that have planning, sites that haven't started yet because they're just not cost effective anymore. So the investors are just sitting on them waiting for something to happen, either a government change in VAT and policy, or costs to come down. I see costs coming down.
Talk to me about KOSMOS. Like, why are you different than, like, we've had a couple of people on this podcast of QS backgrounds. So like, what's the difference between you and what other people in your space are doing? Like, why are you so different?
I would guess, simply put it, we look at data first. So, in a cost management process, project lifecycle, beginning to end, in terms of data collection, analytics is super important. In order to do that, in order to get there, you need to have standardization around data structures, and also you need to look at what other disciplines are feeding information into you, and are you receiving that digitally? So to put it simply, in order for us to get better on the front end at budgeting, we talked about the Children's Hospital, but as I mentioned earlier on, there's no such thing as a wrong budget, maybe just a moment in time. In order to get better in the front end, we need to be collecting our information throughout the project life cycle and feeding it from the back end back into the front end, so that our project life cycle isn't linear anymore, it's circular. So we're feeding information, feeding data back into our projects to understand them better so that we can analyze them better. But for us in KOSMOS, what makes us different is that we need to collaborate super closely with the engineers and architects on projects in order for us to get the information we need from them in digital format, so that we can automate a lot of our processes, so that we're not spending time, manual hours, manually quantifying the same bloody component over and over again throughout the project lifecycle, that we can automate that quantum takeout, so that we as professionals can focus on risk, change, client relationship, downstream relationship for the main contractor and the subcontractors. So I'll give you a little bit of a little explanation what I mean by that. So at REBA stage 1, for example, we have a basic layout design. Foundation type 1. I sit down and I measure foundation type 1. Lovely. I create that initial cost plan. Excellent. Next gateway. what do I need to do? I need to go back and I need to remeasure foundation type 1 to make sure that my quantum is the same and then my price hasn't gone up and the foundation type 1 hasn't changed in geometry, and next thing it's, 3 times as complex. Every single REBA stage, I need to go back and manually measure that foundation in order for me to qualify the budget that I've set, the cost estimates at each gateway. I need to quantify that foundation manually when I create the bill of quantities. We then, as contractor, supply chain, and QS, need to re-quantify the same foundation during the construction process in order to agree final accounts, to order materials, to make sure the quality is there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're redoing the same task multiple times throughout the lifespan of the project. The amount of hours that is generated by just that simple task. Now multiply that task by every single component in the construction project. The reality is that our competitors are not able to do that because the amount of time it would take to re-quantify a children's hospital at every REBA stage, generate the BOQ, final account, change management, it would be colossal. But the only way we can control projects is controlling quantum, because that's the basis of our entire cost plans and cost estimates. So what do? We work very closely with the architects and engineers. So when they're developing their models, they're developing quality information, not just geometry, in their models so that we can extract quantum, but also qualitative information from the models to use in our cost planning, cost estimating. When we map that first foundation, when we map that to our cost plan, if nothing changes in the design information, that mapping is done once, but the quantum is updated as we get new IC models in. So we're wasting no time sitting down, re-quantifying that component. That's automation. What we're doing is concentrating on what has changed, what new components have come in, what new elements do we need to map. And so we're in better control of our projects. But the unique part about this is that if we're qualifying the information produced by the architect and engineer, and it's good quality, it means that every other stakeholder on the supply chain can use that exact same information for their process. Well, they can speed it up. It becomes transparent. That foundation has this information. We're all using it. Contractor, concrete supplier, reinforcement contractor, reinforcement supplier, quality assurance, time management, cost management. We're all using it. If we don't do that, we're all quantifying that one foundation 500 million times throughout the project life cycle. It's crazy, the inefficiency.
Blows my mind. So talk to me about tolerance. Talk to me about shameless plug, by the way. But talk to me about tolerance. Do you build tolerance into your models? So
this is one of the biggest challenges in the industry right now, I would say, is that how QSs quantify is not how design teams model. So for example, a big one is cut length and model length of steel components. Cut length being what you should measure when it comes to steel structures. Model length is what's modeled. The model length will overlap, but the cut length is actually what you're quantifying up to steel plates, for example. And so if you don't understand that as a QS and you take out the wrong quantities, it's either going to be very, very low or very, very high.
Yeah.
So right now we have a bit of a challenge. Our methods of measurement, ARM5 that has now entered the market, how we quantify in our method of measurement is not how we model our design as architects and engineers. A small example I always use is that intersections of gypsum walls, two-way intersections, three-way intersections, abutments, all of that stuff. We don't model that. So why are we spending time quantifying it? Why don't we just include the complexity of that in the square meter price of the gypsum wall and allow the supply chain to then assess that complexity and add it to the square meter price of the gypsum wall? It would mean that it would speed up the modeling process. It would speed up the procurement process. We wouldn't get into this discussion with the design team about, you need to model those intersections. You need to be able to quantify them digitally and manually. Where's the value? Where's the value from it? So tolerances in the models is about understanding how the design team model their components, making sure they align with how we're quantifying our components so that when it comes to those tolerances, as you get into detailed design, your tolerance, your risk, your contingency, whatever you want to call it, on your components, they shouldn't be there. It should be actual, factual, what you're extracting from the model, because what you extract from the model is what you're going to build. If it's not in the model, you're not going to build it.
But that's very well put by yourself, if you don't mind me saying so. But and especially to somebody as ignorant as me. But it seems like it is a problem. It seems like the language is not the same. One person's thinking one way and the other person's thinking the other way, and there's no meeting of minds in the middle. So should
you're 100% correct.
Should we over quantify?
You're 100% correct there. There is no common language at the moment, and that's one of the biggest challenges that quantity surveyors in the industry have, is because they're bringing the old mindset that this is how I do it when I do it manually into a digital form, going, why aren't you giving me the information I need? And so when you measure manually, you interpret the information you're looking at as the QS. So you can add a tolerance on here. You can, color in a line a little bit further here. You think that this is what it's saying in the drawings. That's what you will write in your BOQ.
Yeah.
But to do it digitally, you're not the person interpreting the information. The architect and engineer need to be correct in what they're inputting. How would they know that if you haven't communicated your needs to them at the beginning of the project? Yeah. How will they know that? They're not QSs. They don't quantify. They don't know methods of measurement. They're designers. They have a complete different skill set to the ones you have.
100%.
So what we need to do as QSs is we need to get into that conversation. We need to communicate across between design teams and QSs about what our needs are, what our processes are, where there's benefit and why there's benefit in doing it this way as opposed to that way. And then we need to alter. We've been saying this for almost 8 years now. We need to alter our methods of measurement so that they are methods of modeling. And we then take that methods of modeling, the quantities will be more accurate in relation to our methods of measurement. We cannot continue with the same methods of measurement that have been around since the bloody 40s and continue with them, because the entire industry has changed.
You're going to laugh at this now, but we're both Irish, so I'm going to shoot from the hip. The clerk of works wasn't really a bad idea back in the day when you think of it.
Yeah.
Like, ruthless and all as they were, and they had a finger on everything, like, that was moving, like, rightly or wrongly. Like, do we really need, like, if the digital industry is not 100% solving this, like, do we really need to look at behaviors rather than just digitalization?
Yeah,
I'm not saying don't look at digitalization, by the way.
All the software is available right now to fully digitize our entire industry. That's available. There's multiple options for everything out there. It's all available. The problem is people. If we remove people from the process completely, then we'll get very efficient in developing our projects. Just remove people. Let AI do it for us. That's a tongue in cheek. Yeah.
I just had a picture of a dumper going down the street there. I was like, Jesus, yeah, an AI dumper.
Yeah, an AI dumper. But in all honesty, the softwares, the digital capabilities, they're already there in the industry. The biggest challenges for us is actually on projects is just the human interaction.
Yeah.
We now need to change the way that we interact on projects from that. This is my responsibility, siloed. This is my responsibility. I actually don't care about you, Gavin. You need to deal with your problems. I have my problems. To actually, Gavin, how can I help? Because I know that you need to get in there before me, or you're delivering that. How do we work this out? How do we work together? Because what I don't want to do, and this is the big thing that people kind of misunderstand, is I don't want to come back and take down all my product again. I don't want to come back and redesign all this bloody building again. I don't want to have to come back as a QS and value engineer out all the beautiful design that the architects and engineers have produced. What I want to do, and what all of us want to do, is design it once, build it once, and get on to the next project and go, do you know what? That was super cool project to work on. We had really great fun there. There was no pressure. There was no BS. It was super. That's what we want. That's what we want to do. And I think digitization will help that, but you're absolutely right. We need a huge educational piece here. We need top down, bottom up approaches, side, left and right approaches. Everybody needs to be coming at this to change it, because otherwise we're going to be decades at this. And I don't think in our career will we see the end result of it. I think it's ever evolving now, and I think, but it does make this moment in time for us super interesting, because we're into a position where our industry is not going to look the same way today. In 10 years' time, it's going to be completely different. And so if you were to say that in the 90s, well, let's say 2000, and you look back at 95, you look back at 1990. In 1990, would you say that the industry was completely different in 2000 than it was in 1990? Health and safety improved.
Yeah.
AutoCAD was in, but in the next 10 years, it's just going to exponentially grow for us. It's going to be super interesting.
Yeah, well, but it is going to come back to the individual, though. It's going to go back to the collective and the individuals. No matter what happens, this conversation will be had by somebody else in 10 years' time, and they're going to say the same thing. Absolutely. We have all the nice little fancy toys, all the nice little shiny things. We bought these lovely little shiny digital things. No one knows how to use it. We don't really use it, and he doesn't use it properly, and he wasn't in or she wasn't in, and therefore it didn't get done. And next thing, that piece was left off. I'm sick and tired. I am really getting tired of it. Like, come on. Can we not just pull people into a pre-project workshop? And I know companies do this, but seriously, just rather than shoving the pipeline of supply chain into a project and then hoping that everybody's going to get on with each other when everybody has their own self-interest. We don't communicate. We don't collaborate. We don't connect the dots. We don't fall together. We don't succeed together.
It is interesting, I think. And one of the easiest, if you disagree with this, one of the easiest things to look at is lessons learned from a project. How often have you been in a lessons learned session where everybody went A to Z, there are the issues, this is how we could solve them, and the next project you're in that they're implemented in? Yeah. If anybody listening has been in a situation like that in the industry, absolutely reach out to us, because I haven't experienced it yet.
Well, I'll put my hands up on. We do it.
Yeah, everything is linear. See, everything is linear. It's not connected. We don't look at it as an upward spiral cycle of development.
Yeah, it's taking a standalone stuff. No, we work in the wind industry and in the power generation. I have to say to you, don't get me wrong. It's just a higher level. It's a higher level conversation. It's higher level paid people that actually have been attracted into the industry and don't leave the industry. And it's not as transient as the construction, I'm talking about construction of power plants, and I'm talking about construction of wind energy projects. At the higher level, this stuff does happen and people do collaborate, and we still have challenges and we still have issues. But you don't have an issue where everybody's turning around and saying nobody's making money on this job. That doesn't happen. That's very,
and everybody deserves to make money. I understand covering your costs, but every company deserves to make a profit, and every person deserves to get paid. And that's how our industry stays together. That's how we develop.
But is that not the problem? Is that not part of the problem? That it's an inequitable relationship spread across a diverse number of collective people that don't have that only have a self-interest at heart, and everybody's trying to get by, as opposed to there's no tolerance to have a bandwidth to be successful above to bring yourself up to this higher standard, higher level. People will, if you put money in front of people will in the main give you more. Is that not a fair statement?
But it's also how you treat it. The money gives you a certain return, but it's actually how you treat them. And I think if you look at the Irish industry and a lot of the global industries like this, the construction is made up of SMEs, right? Generally, your carpenters are small groups, small companies, 1 to 15 people, 20 people maybe, and those SMEs need to be taken care of, because the guy running that 15, 20. That dude, that lady is flat out at the moment trying to manage the company, do work, keep everybody busy, blah, blah, blah. We don't give enough support to them to allow them to step away from the grind to actually manage quality, manage growth, manage digitization, manage their entrepreneurial life. We just keep trying to grind the same result from them. So I think you're right. Look at was it ISG in the UK that went bust a while back?
Just recently, yeah.
And if you look at their margin for the last decade or something, it was like point something of a percent was their that's crazy.
Yeah.
On point something of a percent, how could you be reinvesting in any R&D or any development, or all you're doing is staying head is above water, you're starving in reality. But that might be inefficiencies as well, maybe, that is generating those low incomes perhaps.
So tell me about where's Cosmos going to go now for the future? What's the exciting vision for yourselves like?
I would say what excites us the most is finding clients out there that have an interest in doing something different. So we do work for very big organizations, and our projects are very big. We prefer the big stuff of over 100 million euro. That's where digitization really works. That's where you have a bit of a kind of collateral that you can reinvest in it, and there's a bit of more appetite there. But what interests us the most is finding companies or clients that are interested in doing something different and partnership. We don't really kind of care about the one-off project. That's all well and good. But what we're looking at is, okay, we can come in and help on this. This is a disaster. But what we want to do is go here on your portfolio. How do you change this disaster into being productive and quality and all of that? And that's what really excites us. So from a Cosmos perspective, one of the biggest challenges we have is finding people with that similar mindset in order to be able to grow the group. So we have to do a lot of training and education of the team we bring in, because as we discussed, our industry is not very digitized. There's a few cohort out there that actually have the mindset and are really interested in it. So we try to attract them into the business and help us to be able to grow that knowledge base and excitement about doing something different. I would also say that, a lot of companies, when they are set up, there's this idea of certain turnovers and profits and the money. We're a walking contradiction. In reality, we don't really care about money. We're not in it for that. We're in it for actually finding those key clients to be able to do something different and then be able to go look into the industry. We told you that this could be possible. That's what kind of excites the crap out of us. But we do, of course, need, unfortunately, or the entire business is run on money, and we do need it at the end of the day. If you don't have any margin, of course, you're going to go bankrupt.
So just like sort of for the listeners and viewers, you're basically a plug and play digital QS model. If I'm a QS, am I getting worried about Ross Griffin going into a meeting with some of my executive team?
I would say, So I would say that what we're trying to do is the old model of quantity surveying is bums on seats. The more chaos that's in the project, the more QSs that are there to solve it. So all the consultancies out there, they do not want this to change, because what we're saying is that you don't need half of those guys in managing that mess. And the meaning of Cosmos is order from chaos. So what we're doing is coming in and going, okay, digitize the workflow, digitize the process, concentrate on what's key, making sure everything is transparent to everybody. And if you focus on the front end design period, you'll get a much better back end, meaning that you'll get the claims will be down. What they actually built on site is actually what was designed. Everybody has a better environment. No one gets into claims disputes, and your level of change, risk, and buggerization, if you will, in the back end almost disappears. But our industry focuses heavily on, if I hear this mission critical terminology, it does my head in. Quickly, we need to start building. We have an end date. Has anybody ever delivered a project on time on those projects? If you're out there and you have, please write to us, because I have not heard one project that was delivered on the initial start date, because we need to hurry up. This is mission critical. Yeah. So what we're trying to do is change the idea that a quantity surveyor is someone that actually just does quantifying from a drawing. They become more data analysts, and those data analysts then become more informed about how to manage and view trends within the project to be able to advise clients in the direction that they should take. Yeah. So for us, I think we're going to try as much as we can to automate as much of our traditional services as possible in QSing. Focus on information and data so that we don't have to do that administrative work, that we're really sitting about strategy and concentrating on that data-led decision making.
I love lean. That's screaming lean to me.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you need. That's what you need at the end of the day. And lean leans into everything about offsite manufacturing, process orientated. Why are we delivering all of these components to the site and then having to assemble them on site? Can we just do that somewhere else and bring them in when we need them from a different location, et cetera? All of that. We need to turn construction to manufacturing.
100%.
We need to turn drawings to models.
Yeah.
We need to turn communication to kind of digital communication. So we're tracking all of this stuff. And I think that's really where we're heading. That's what we want to do as a business.
So tell me then, just to throw a few curveballs at you, because our time is running out, but
no bother.
A few curveballs. Knowing what you know now, what would you do different, Ross Griffin? It can be anything. It doesn't have to be business now.
That's very interesting. That's a great question. I'll tell you what, I've really enjoyed the journey that I've been on. So I would change very little of it. And I mean, from working as a contractor QS, working as an on-site QS, doing education, distance learning, traveling different countries, trying to take that on board. I don't think I'd change any of that, to be honest. Even some people say I would have loved to start the business earlier. I would have said, I don't think we were in a position to do that, because the moment is right when the moment is right. And starting 10 years before that is not the right moment, potentially.
100%.
So the only thing I would change perhaps is how, and this is something we're going to change, is how do we communicate this so that people really take it on board and begin to decide for themselves that they have the power to make that change. They're not just a number in an organization. Mm-hmm. And if you feel like that, you need to get out. You need to go do something different, because the reality is we're in control of our own lives. We're in control of our own decisions. So if you're not feeling that comfort and you have this edge, I would say, or this burning desire, then get out there and do something.
In the wrong place.
Yeah.
Something of interest about you that not many people would know, Ross. Be careful. You don't want to end up in court or anything over this or whatever.
Jesus, I've loads. I have two for you. So I have a bunch of tattoos that very rarely get seen, and I own a couple of motorcycles.
You own a couple of motorcycles?
Yeah. It's something I've always wanted to do. So 3 years ago, I decided to go get a license and then buy a motorcycle. And then my wife and I decided that we'd like to travel piece of Europe last summer. So I bought a 1000cc DL V-Strom Suzuki, and we jumped on the back and took the boat to Spain and drove around for 2 weeks. So,
absolutely love it. Love it.
I guess
book or movie?
Controversial. Jeez. Okay. Favorite book or movie? I'll go movie first. I would say the Die Hards are my favorite. Die Hard 1, the best Christmas movie.
The Christmas one.
Ever, Gavin.
That's the one that came into my head straight away. Yeah. Yippee-ki-yay.
Yippee-ki-yay. Oh, I have another thing that a lot of people wouldn't know about me, I guess. I'm dyslexic. So reading was always a challenge for me going through school and university and stuff like that. So, but when it comes to books, I love autobiographies because I like reading about people's lives and what they've done.
Yeah, factual.
Whether it's sport or it's rock and roll and the madness they've gone through. Yeah. Or I think one of the best books was the Auschwitz Tattooist, I think, is the name of the book. It's just super powerful. Those kind of real life stories.
Yeah.
Fiction is okay, but all the fiction is up here. So I like the real life stuff,
Would you encourage people to get into construction?
I think this is one of our biggest challenges as the industry, is convincing people that it is a very nice career to be involved in. One thing about construction is that you can travel anywhere in the world with it. Okay, difficult if you're an architect and you need to know local policies and all of that stuff. But as a QS, it's just numbers. You can go anywhere in the world, right?
Yeah.
The second one is that construction is one of the few industries that touches every single person in the entire globe. Every time we wake up in a building that someone thought about in terms of design, someone constructed. Every time we move through society in our daily basis, we move through stuff people built. It's the one industry that touches every single person's life on the globe.
100%.
Which is, and that just, I think it was Ralph Montague that said that to me one day when we were chatting, and I went, whoa, I said, that's powerful. I didn't think of it that way before. So, so that's it, yeah.
If people want to get in touch with you, Ross, how do they do it?
Oh, LinkedIn. As you know, Gavin, I'm all over that like yourself. So LinkedIn, you can write to me messages there. You can also jump on our website at KOSMOS.company. Email me, you name it. You can contact me anyway. But LinkedIn is where we do most of our communication. Most of your connections.
Sure. Is it KOSMOS.com or KOSMOS.company? I just want to clarify that.
KOSMOS.company.
Wow, I didn't see that. I haven't seen that one yet.
No. And a lot of people haven't. And when Microsoft updated their Windows 11 1.5 years ago, we've huge problems with securities when we're sending emails from Cosmos.company. But so have a think about when you set something up about your.
Is this furniture? Is this guy set? Ross,
exactly.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you on I'm the Gaffer, and we'd love to have you back again in the future. We wish you well. Gavin. We know that you're traveling all over Europe. You've got obviously the base in Denmark, and people will reach out to you. I'm sure they will. And please keep doing what you're doing, because it is we need more leaders out there that's kind of flying the flag for construction, and you're one of them.
Gavin, as long as we're having fun doing what we're doing, we should continue. The day we don't enjoy it anymore is the day we'll stop.
And I'll leave you on that. Well done. Thanks very much, Ross.
Cheers, Gavin.